Hello, this is John Pernay from Ion Annapolis and the Maryland Crabs podcast with a special election crab cake episode for your listening pleasure. In June, we held a mayoral forum that was very, very well attended, and you can, and quite honestly you should, go listen to that one, and you can find it on themarylandcrabs.com. But today, we bring you the voices of all of the other candidates running for Alderperson. Well, all but one of them. Republican candidate for Ward 1, Larry Clausen, did not respond to any of our requests. While we would have liked to have presented a forum or a debate with these 17 individuals, it just wasn't practical. So, we took it to the road so you can learn a little bit more about each of them in order to help us all make an informed vote. All of the questions were essentially the same to keep it fair, and we are releasing them all at the same time. Tune in and listen as your candidates answer some crucial questions about the city of Annapolis and how they plan to handle it should they be successful. Thanks for listening, enjoy, and be sure to vote. We are making the rounds of the coffee shops in Annapolis. We were at City.Coffee a little bit earlier this morning, and now we're at Ceremony Roasters over here on Russell Street we're in Ward 3, aren't we?
No, we're not. We're in Ward 4.
We're in Ward 4. Okay. But we are here with Alderwoman Rhonda Pindell-Charles, who is the current Alderwoman for Ward 3. How are you today?
Fine. Thank you, John.
Thank you for coming out. It's a beautiful day. I know I'd much rather be outside doing something other than this, but that's...
We're good.
We're good. You are running again for Alderwoman for
Yes.
Ward 3. Were you appointed...
No, I ran for them in 2013.
Okay, so I know you had run, but that was not, you didn't have a special election or anything, right?
No,
okay,
that was not a special election.
Alderwoman Hoyle had stepped down and just finished her term, and then you jumped in.
Yes, she
and
had.
Run that. Okay. And Ward 3, for those that don't know, is, wow, it's sort of hard to describe. It goes down a little bit Old Forest Drive, Parole.
Yes. Basically,
West
the
Street.
neighborhoods are traditional Parole, which is bounded by West Street, Chicopee Round Road, Old Solomon's Island Road, and Forest Drive. Then we have the Parole Heights community, which is basically behind the Honda dealership. We have the Annapolis Gardens community, the Admiral Oaks community, Forest Villa community, the Bywater Corridor, and that includes Federal Town, Sheila and I Split Oxford Landing, the Greenbrier community, the Heritage community, the Greater Germantown, Homewood, and Fred Payon and I split that as well.
And you run right up to like the library on West Street.
1901 West Street is part of it. And yes, it does run. Fred has the library and also the Fairfax community and Allen Apartments.
Okay, and Fairfax, that's the one that hides behind the wall off of 665.
That is
right?
correct, yes.
Your ward, as most people may or may not know, has the most businesses of any ward in the city.
Okay, I have about 360.
Yeah,
about 360.
You've got that West Street corridor that has an awful lot of small businesses that are there.
But and the industrial centers as well.
You've been having the pulse of the ward for 4 years now.
No, for 63 years, because I've lived there for 63
That's
years.
Okay. There you touche. Put me right in the space. Absolutely. Well, what specifically for Ward 3 right now? What are the hot buttons? What are the residents of Ward 3 concerned about right now as we're going into the next election?
Well, I think it's basically outlined in our Greater Parole Community Association's committees. And one committee is the Balanced and Managed Growth and Development Committee. And I think that's what really is the big issue for our community. We abut Anne Arundel County line. And so we have the benefits of course, Anne Arundel County businesses right there, which would be the Annapolis Town Center, Annapolis Harbor Center, as well as the Annapolis Mall. But of course, that brings on more traffic, residents, and so we're trying to make sure that we're not inundated with too much, but keeping in mind that people love Annapolis and they want to be here.
Do you find that the concerns of your residents or your constituents in Ward 3 mirror those of the city in general? Because as an alderwoman, you do represent the city of Annapolis, certainly. Do you find that the concerns of Ward 3 sort of mimic the city, or did the city have some other concerns that jump in there?
Well, I think, and I've mentioned it to everyone, every ward is different, very different. Whether it's the outlay of the ward, whether it's the residents themselves, whether it's the issues that are being faced. But I think in some ways it does mirror, but I think we're a little bit different because we're right on that Anne Arundel County line, and I think that makes a huge difference because we do have those complexes out there. But in many ways, we have the same types of issues, the quality of life issues. Of course, when it comes right down to it, was my trash picked up today? If I call the police, will they be there? If there's a fire, the fire department's response. So I think when you talk about quality of life issues, they're all the same in all the wards.
Well, you had mentioned one of the concerns being development.
Yes.
And that's a huge thing I'm finding citywide. We've got Crystal Spring, which is Providence Point down there in Ward 4. You've got arguably Impact 5 and probably 5, 6, and 7 a little bit.
Certainly.
More, but you've got Crystal Spring, you've got the Eastport Landing, which are the sort of the hot topic du jour.
Correct.
If you will. What in general is your standing on development? I know you've got a little bit just adjacent to your ward, immediately adjacent to your ward in the county.
Right.
Like 6 inches over the
exactly.
over
Literally.
The line. But what is your stance on development in general? How do we manage that?
Like I said, balanced and managed growth and development. Not too much, but enough where the residents feel comfortable and it doesn't affect a significant quality of life. So I think each project stands on its own merit. The residents who live in the areas that are being affected are the ones who will be impacted. Like I've mentioned to many developers, I live here, I've been here all my life. If there's an issue, no one's going to come looking for you. I'm going to get the 10 o'clock p.m. Knock on my door, the 12 o'clock midnight phone call. Rhonda, what is this? Can you help us with that? So I think that puts it in more of a perspective when it impacts directly on the people who are there. And so I try to relay that to developers.
I'm not seeing a sweep of Democrats or Republicans this election. I think you're going to see a mixture in the council, as we have now. We may have a Democrat or a Republican mayor and council. And you've got some experience certainly doing that as an alderwoman right now. How do you reach across that party line on the city council to get things done? Because if you don't reach across that line, nothing gets done.
True. Several things. As a retired prosecutor in Baltimore City, that's all we did was come to consensus, negotiate, finding the common ground. That was, if you couldn't do that, you couldn't survive that profession. Not at all. I'm a Democrat. Everybody there is a Democrat except for the mayor and Fred Payon. Well, Fred Payon and I have a lot in common. He was a prosecutor, retired prosecutor in Anne Arundel County. So we are in many ways of that same mindset. The mayor, and this is how I see it, and this is how I've operated all my life. I respect the mayor. We don't always agree, and that's okay, but I try to find common ground. The mayor has seen me as a person to find common ground, and so I think that has helped tremendously. It's a matter of working with the mayor, his staff, the directors, and everyone who works for the city. I think that's a huge benefit. And I think coming from that prosecutorial background, where you have to reach across the aisle, you have to deal with the public defender or the defense attorney. Otherwise, you do the state, the victim, a disservice if you can't do that. So that is always what I was trained to do, and it's second nature to me.
All right, I need you to throw yourself under the bus a little bit here. When you look back on the last 4 years of the council, what has come out of the council, and it's not necessarily you particularly, but what has come out of the council that you say, wow, that was a really dumb move for us. We made a mistake. We made the wrong decision.
I put it this way, and this is what I've said before. I have not, and we'll take the Market House. I did not have the benefit of being there when the Market House issues began 10 years ago, whenever it was. So I don't have that pain that a lot of my colleagues have. I look at the Market House as a way in which we can do some good. And I'm always the ultimate optimist. But like I said, my colleagues, some of them have the pain of that, and they're I've offered some trepidation regarding that. I, on the other hand, don't have that same trepidation because I haven't gone through what they've gone through. So I don't consider really anything a bad move. I consider it a learning experience because this is my first rotation as a councilwoman. So as far as I'm concerned, there has been a benefit or a learning experience from every decision that we have made. I don't look at anything as a dumb move. And I've had just as a side note, the city manager, Tom Andrews, I think is great. Well, I know. We worked at the Department of Natural Resources during the same time, starting back in 1979 is when I started. So, and he was the health officer. Well, he was the acting health officer for a while for the Anne Arundel County Health Department, and I've been heavily involved with the Parole Health Center, so we had a relationship there. So I have established that great relationship with Mr. Andrews, and that has helped tremendously in navigating even the nuances of city council as well. And he has a dearth of, experiences beyond. That has been extremely helpful.
The argument sometimes has been made that the city is in dire financial circumstances. The argument has been made that the city is in great financial circumstances. It probably sits someplace in between, but what I'd like to know is if the city were ever into a position where it was on the verge of bankruptcy, on the verge of insolvency, which I don't think anybody believes it is at this point.
No, I don't either.
But if it ever gets to that point, as an alderwoman, what's on the table for you personally to help sort of right that ship to get it back into a solvent situation?
Well, I would hope that we would never even get to the point where we're, oh my goodness, we're at the brink. That's number one. I think there's some measures that we can take along the way. And my thing is always looking at things from a holistic standpoint. Let's look at everything that the budget entails. Let's look at every department. Let's look at what services we're offering. There was a study done right as I was entering as alderwoman that was done, and I can't remember the name of it, but it took a very good look at those kinds of things. I would be the one who would say, let's look at everything. Let's see and do, basically let's do an audit of every department to see where we are. Let's take a look at what the state can offer more to us as far as when we provide services, the county as well, because there are a lot of things that the city is providing that could be reimbursable by the state and the county as well. So to me, that's a good place to look as well. So outside sources that we could look at. I wouldn't take anything off the table. Everything to me would be worth discussion and investigation and auditing, for lack of a better term.
You've done this job for almost 4 years now.
Yes, sir.
How much time, and this was a question sort of designed for the first-time candidates, but how much time do you put into this? What is this?
Well, let me tell you. What I do every year for my residents, and I have over 5,000, but I have about 1,500 to 1,600 households. I send them a yearly letter, letting them know how many meetings I've attended, how many hours I've worked, how many miles I've driven.
So this is very detailed. This is the Alderwoman Rhonda Pindell-Charles report card.
A report card. It's usually 16 to 18 pages. So I give them everything, the legislation that has gone through, to keep people updated on what's going on. I also have a large, robust email distribution list that I send out information about jobs, health, events, all kinds of things. And that's usually, I would say I'm sending it out to about 600 as a group. But as far as how much time, when I looked at my time, I was making, I think the last time I looked was $5.51 an hour. If you want to do it right, if you want to be totally committed to your constituents, and I say to everybody, I have 3 promises. I will promise to be respectful, responsive, and results oriented. And so I've kept to that, and I want people. And at the end of the letter, I always write, if there's something that you see that I should be doing, then you tell me what I should also be doing. And so I'm putting it out there to the residents as well. I mean, this is what I signed up for. This is what I was elected to do. People ask me, do I sleep? Yes. And I also have a full-time job with Anne Arundel County Public Schools. But this is what I was elected to do, to serve. And when I no longer feel like I can give it my all, then other decisions have to make decisions.
Well, you touched base on this a little bit in your last answer, but what specifically are you doing to keep your constituents informed?
Well,
you obviously said you've got the yearly letter and the newsletter.
Well, it's not a newsletter. It's
For
like
the
if someone,
email.
someone sends me an event that's going on that they want published, basically publicized. If there's a job fair going on, I send that out. People have come up to me and said, "Rhonda, you know that thing you sent out? I got a job behind that," and that's happened several times. So people are in tune and looking for me to send them information because people want to be informed. And I understand that because they want to, even if it doesn't help them, it may help their neighbor or a family member or something like that. So that's extremely important. We've been working on, because I work for the school system, and I used to work for the health department for a while. It has lent itself to having established a lot of relationships. And today in the Capitol, we were asked to do an op-ed, each one of us, or a letter to the editor. My op-ed is in there today, August the 9th. So it's a series of partnerships that we've developed with the school system through the city. The city is throwing in some money as well, with the county health department as well, with Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation. So if you want me to elaborate on some of that, I certainly can. And my platform is health and public safety, balanced and managed growth and development, educational, career, and housing opportunities, increased civic engagement, and business community initiatives.
I'm cheating and I'm looking at this piece of paper in front of you, and I see the first big word on there says "One Annapolis," and I think that you may have cheated and looked at my question.
No, I did not.
That's what my next question is actually talking about. That we do have two Annapolises.
Yes,
and it's been said that for a long time. Everybody, I think, is on the same page that we want one Annapolis.
Yes, we do.
Looking at the two different extremes, we've got, we'll say, wealthy homeowners that live on the waterfront mansions.
Certainly.
And on the opposite side, we've got low to perhaps no income residents that live in public housing or subsidized housing. Mm-hmm. It's not an issue that's going to be resolved overnight. There's not a magic wand that can be waved to handle this, unfortunately. But we can take baby steps.
Yes.
And what, as an alderwoman, where do you see that the city can take these steps to start to close that big gap that exists between the two Annapolis?
And those are the partnerships that I was just mentioning to you. We'll start with the Community Ambassadors Program. And I'll give you a quick rundown, and I always use Miss Betty Ann as an example. She and I went to high school together. She passed away recently. Miss Betty Ann lived in Robinwood, grew up in Robinwood, was extremely well respected there. She was hired by the school system to be detailed at Annapolis High School. Miss Betty Ann would report to Annapolis High in the morning. She would ask, "Is little Timmy from Robinwood here today?" The attendance person would say no. She would drive her car back to Robinwood, pick up little Timmy, get him out of the bed, pick him up, and bring him to school. She would walk the hallways during the day. She would talk to the kids in the cafeteria, talk to the teachers, the administrators. If she had heard that something was brewing or going to brew over the weekend, she would call the principal and administrator and say, "Look, let's meet the children at the bus stop in Robinwood, ride with them, meet them when they got off at the bus at Annapolis High School." When this program started in 2006, 2007, Sharon McKell, who was a PPW at that time, and I started this program. We had 12 community ambassadors, one for each one of our challenged communities. Since that time, we're now down to 2. I went to the mayor and I said, "Look, we need to revitalize this program." We talked and had several meetings with Dr. Arlotto, the superintendent, and the city is now kicking in some money to hire 4 more. So we will have 6 to deal with the 13 housing communities. The MOU should be signed by next week. They are the bridge builders between the school and the community and the families. They were huge and they were extremely successful. No babysitting involved. If little Timmy had a sister, Tina, who went to Hillsmere, and there was an issue, then Miss Betty Ann would look into that matter as well. They were the human bridge builders for the school system and the families. So that's the first program we're going to start. The next one is the Strengthening Families program through the health department. And what the Strengthening Families program does, it gives information. It's a 14-week program, 1 session a week, and it provides training in parenting, children's social and life skills, family relationships, family activities, mealtime activity planning. And how it basically works, it starts maybe at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The parents come to the school. Transportation is free. They eat a meal together as a family, and then they break up into groups. Parents, high schoolers, middle schoolers, elementary, and then it's child care that's free. They talk about these issues that I just explained. And then at the end of around 7:15, they debrief, and then they go home. That's 14 weeks. And at the end, they have a graduation ceremony. This program will be offered at Georgetown East Elementary for the for the Newtown 20, as well as the Bay Ridge Gardens community. Then in the spring, it will come to Walter S. Mills Parole, again for the Newtown 20 community students, as well as the Bywater students. So that's another program that the city is kicking in money with the health department, another partnership. Then we have Anne Arundel Workforce Development Corporation. They're based in Glen Burnie. We had 3 extremely successful job fairs in 2016. They saw the need. They will be opening up an office at the Stanton Community Center in the fall, probably in September. There will be a full-time person there getting people acclimated to jobs, careers, training. They will also have a person there who will be going to the high school 2 days a week, a career coach who will be working with students who not college bound or college ready and didn't get into the Cat South trades program, but the ones who fall in the middle, who graduate and say, I have no skills, I need something. So they will be working with adults, they will be working with seniors, they will be working with veterans, they will be working with young people. It's a huge, robust program. It's extremely well run, well organized. Kirkland Murray is the executive director and Deborah Russell is the COO. So we've had several meetings concerning this, and they are ready, willing, and able to come here. It will be a huge asset for the youth, the adults, and it's going to be a holistic approach to not just providing this to a student. Meade High School has this program in their school, and they're working with the Meade Village community because I know a lot about it because I work in West County in a school. So they have a lot more money because they're getting the casino grant because they're within the 3-mile radius. But they started this program this past year. They have, for example, a daughter who came in to get her GED. She went home and was so excited, said, Mom, you got to come and do the same thing. The mother came in. Then she talked to the brother, and the brother came in. A mother and a father who have 8 children, another example, came in and said, the mother said, I want to get my GNA CNA license. She convinced the husband to come in and get his CDL certification. There was a lady who had no transportation. She couldn't get a car. She didn't have a job, but she needed her record expunged. They have an expungement specialist. Went to the expungement specialist, got it expunged, and is off doing her good thing on a job. So there are actually stories this 1 year that has been, about 9 months, that has been going on in Meadville. We want to replicate that here in Annapolis, and we know it's going to work. We also have the OIC, Opportunities Industrialization Center, that's providing GED and prep classes within Newtown 20 and Woodside Gardens, as well as Eastport Terrace, Harbor House. In fact, I just came from a meeting before I got here to talk about that. We already have established a partnership and a contract with the Crisis Response Team, which is out of the County Mental Health Agency. So they're providing crisis response to us as well. As you may have known, I was the lead sponsor, impetus for the Equal Protection of Law legislation as dealing with our foreign-born residents. Part of that was a companion resolution. We're going to, over the next year, we're going to be looking at and doing in-depth research and investigation as to how we can help our foreign-born residents and their families as well. So that's the resolution for a year. We're going to be working on that. We're also working on the Street Corner Ministries Coalition. That's where we've asked about 10 different houses of worship to adopt each community and to go in and give them the services, whether it's secular or spiritual services, to come in and actually mentor the community. And we're also going to have a mental health component to go with that as well.
Well, it sounds like the needle is moving on that gap.
Yes. One Annapolis moving in a new direction. But we're working hard. The partnerships that have never been established before, and the city is kicking in some money and space, that's going to be, for me, that's going to be huge and significant.
Why do you want to run? What makes Rhonda Pindell-Charles run for Alderwoman? Why are you qualified, and why should people vote for you?
Because I know I can make a difference. I've established the relationships in the community. I have the background to do it. When I was in Baltimore City, I was there for 20 and a half years. Of 18 and a half of those, I was a supervising attorney. I also was a speechwriter for the state's attorney. The new prosecutors that came into the juvenile courts division, I was the deputy. I basically ran the unit. We had 20 attorneys, 15 support staff. We handled over 30,000 hearings a year, just our department. I was in charge of all of that. I've got the supervisory skills. I've got the know-how. Like I said, I've worked in many different venues, whether it was maritime. I worked for a blast cleaning company one summer. I worked for the bank one summer. I worked for bank 4 summers. Sears, price changing. Montgomery Ward. I washed dishes. I've had 15 different jobs, or part-time and full-time. And I think all of that has allowed me to come to this point where I have established the relationships. I've got the know-how, and I know I can make a difference with the help of a team. No one person can do it alone. We have the Greater Parole Community Association, which is awesome. We have 485 members in that association, and we also have 11 members of those that are on the executive leadership team. I couldn't do what I do without a solid base within my community. I have a great ward. I tell anybody, I believe I've got the best ward in the city. People are extremely supportive, helpful, work hard, engaged, but we can all take it a step further.
Where do we get in touch with you? How do people find out a little bit more about you?
Well, of course, my Alderwoman email is aldpindell-charles@annapolis.gov. Rhonda Pindell-Charles at verizon.net. So those are the two ways, and they can call me at home, 410-266-6857. It might take me a little while to get back to you by phone, but email I will answer in timely manner. But I get home so late, I don't call people at 10 or 11 at night, but I can email you at 10 or 11 or 12 or 1 or 2 at night. So
I can attest to that. I saw the timestamp of the one last night. It had a single number followed by
I have a friend who said I had to take my phone out of my bedroom and put it in the kitchen because you were waking me up at night.
Alderwoman Pindell-Charles, I thank you very much for coming out to Ceremony Roasters here and telling us a little bit about you, about your candidacy. I would wish you good luck at this point in the primary, but you haven't drawn a challenger, yes. So congratulations on your primary win.
Well, thank you.
And we look forward to the general election. And please, for anybody that's listening, make sure you get out there and vote. It is so important no matter what ward you live in. Get out on September 19th.
Absolutely.
And vote in the primary.
And what I tell people is, even though I'm unopposed, you must come out and vote because there's strength in voting. I can't go to City Hall and ask for certain things from our ward if people don't come out and vote. But I would be really remiss if I left my family out. My parents who are now deceased, who were great, my grandparents, my husband, and my 2 children. So make sure that goes on the record. Family is extremely important, and I have many extended family and immediate family, and my grandson who's 2.5 as well. So that's extremely important. I couldn't do what I do without their undivided and overwhelming support.
Fantastic. Alderwoman Pindell-Charles, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity.
So there you have it. Answers from a candidate or alderperson in the city of Annapolis. Did they answer anything that was on your mind? If not, make sure you get in touch with them so you can make the best vote come September 19th in the primary election. Be sure to keep up to speed on the election at eyeonannapolis.net and also on the marylandcrabs.com. It is an important election this year, so it is so important to get out and vote. And speaking of voting, the primary is on September 19th and the general election is on November 7th. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And after the primary, look for an announcement from us about a mayoral debate between the 2 survivors. Just like the forum in June, Eye on Annapolis and the Maryland Crabs will bring this to you, but this time it'll be structured more as a debate rather than a forum. Thank you for listening to this special election crab cake episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Maryland Crabs podcast. We have fresh stuff that drops every Thursday at noon.